I was thinking about this earlier. In sports, one of the things that can really cost you your job is the inability to beat your rival. It happens all the time. We talked about Nick Saban a little bit yesterday and the fact that the rest of the SEC can't seem to figure out their coaching situation. A lot of that may have to do with the fact that, maybe the athletic director can't figure it out. Institutionally, they're a little bit confused. It also might have to do with the fact that Nick Saban just smashes them every single year. And so Les Miles couldn't beat Bama, even though LSU seemed like every year was ranked top 10, and then Les loses his job. The same thing happened with the Boston Red Sox for years and years and years. That's some really good managers, none of the least which was Grady Little. Grady Little was the manager when the Red Sox, I want to say it was 2001, 2002. He was the manager when the Red Sox were a better team than the New York Yankees, but left Pedro Martinez in too long, and the Yankees shelled the Red Sox and ended up beating them in the postseason once again. And this was before the Red Sox, for all you kids out there, the Red Sox for years and years and years were pathetic, and they were an absolute joke before they turned into some juggernaut. Grady Little lost his job because he couldn't beat the Yankees. It happens all the time. NBA, NFL, college football, college hoops, Tobacco Road rivalries in Carolina, down south. You can't beat your rival, you got to go. That's how it is. So when you look at the rivalry game and you think about what's going to happen 13 days from now, how bad does Kalani Sitake need this game? And not just for the health of the program, not just for the fan base to say, we finally did it. 8 years and a generation of dominance from Utah after the better part of 25, 30 years of BYU dominance. Like, when is this going to end? For the health of his fan base and the health of his program and his players and the school, just the very institution of BYU, the game is important. It really is. But how bad does Kalani need it? That's the question. BYU's schedule this year is a bear, and in order for BYU to ultimately receive what they need, like all of us need oxygen, they need it so badly, they have to have P5 inclusion, okay? They have to at some point. The conversation right now is, do they go back to the Mountain West Conference? Do they keep trudging ahead as an independent with the goal eventually to be thought of as Notre Dame, which is never going to happen for a myriad of different reasons? If this is the new normal for BYU, handling the schedule that Tom Holmoe is putting together and doing a damn fine job of that, by the way. How bad does Kalani need this game for the health of his program, the health of the team, but for himself as well? Because wins and losses might be really hard to come by, once again, for BYU, at least against the elite opponents. And in order for BYU, once again, to receive the thing they need more than anything else, which is P5 inclusion, they're going to have to beat some of these teams. And not just occasionally. You know, the thing with Bronco Mendenhall is he rarely lost to schools that he was supposed to lose to. I mean, let me rephrase that. He rarely beat schools he was supposed to beat. Okay, there are just very few occasions where Bronco actually pulled off big wins. But he also beat everybody he was supposed to beat, is the better way to put that. So there weren't a lot of surprises. There weren't a lot of big wins. There was a few. Oklahoma. You know, you can name a few good Bronco Mendenhall wins. But you can name very few wins where he just shocked the world and beat teams that he wasn't supposed to beat. Kalani's going to have to start doing that, starting with the University of Utah, which, to bring it back around to the original point, it's a rival school that has owned you for the better part of a decade or more, the better part of a generation. In other parts of the country, the inability to beat your rival costs you your job. Is it a situation here where Kalani's inability to beat Utah so far has put him under a bigger microscope that he wouldn't be, all things being equal, if, a couple of wins here or there, if it was more of an even situation? So when you look at this game in 13 days, the ramifications are far more reaching than I think we give it credit for. It's not just about, okay, whatever happens the Monday after the game, we're going to go back to life as normal and practice and then game prep for the next opponent. Like, of course, all of that's true, but I think there might be a little bit more pressure on Kalani this year than in years past because the fever pitch and the temperature is rising a little bit, if all that makes sense. Doesn't mean he's in danger of losing his job. And let me be clear about this. You're not going to find a bigger Kalani Sitake supporter than me. I mean, as soon as word came down that Bronco took that job at Virginia, the first thing I said on air was, paging Kalani Sitake. He's a BYU guy. He's a great coach. He's a great dude. And I hope he's down there for 30 years. I hope he never leaves. I hope he only coaches at BYU, and I hope he does great things down there. But we live in a different era. The days of Lavelle Edwards being around for 3 decades or so, those things don't happen in college football, and they don't even happen at the best programs in college football. Ohio State, Michigan, Saban's in the midst of a great run at Bama, LSU. We've talked about how often they change coaches, Georgia, Florida, USC, UCLA, Oregon. Name a school, and you can name about 4 or 5 different coaches that they've had over the past 9, 10 years. Utah is an anomaly. Coach Wood has been here for a long, long time. Longer than most coaches coach anywhere, not just the Pac-12, but across the country. I don't have the numbers in front of me because he's one of the longest tenured coaches in the country. So with all that being said, and you take everything into context, Kalani's been at BYU for more than a minute. He's no longer a new hire. And this game isn't just something I think they need for the health of the school and the fan base and the program and the spirit of the entire thing. I think Kalani needs it. So for everybody that's talking about, well, Zach Wilson, Tyler Huntley, BYU's offensive line's awesome, but Utah's defensive line is better. So all of that is fine and good. And that's essentially why we're on air, to break down these things. There's more than meets the eye is what I'm saying. And I think the dynamic of how badly Kalani needs this game is often overlooked.